Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bob's favorite time of the year and Matt's least favorite time. It's the time where Bob picks his best and worst of 2024. And then it's the time where Matt begrudgingly listens to Bob talk about his best and worst and then makes fun of him.
Yep, Bob, it's that time again where I get to realize how much TV you consume.
Consume a lot of TV, Matt. I consume a lot of TV.
I try to make fun of you for it, but then I realize that your TV consumption and my video game consumption are equatable. Yeah, they balance each other out. So I can't really say anything.
So, Matt, I will do a best of TV for me in a week or so. Obviously, takes a lot to watch a season of TV. I didn't have 10 worst shows of the year, thankfully. And even the top or the bottom of this list, depending on how you look at it, not even that bad. I didn't really even hate it, but it is kind of bad. And so I just feel like, in terms of honesty, I should mention it. So we're going to count down. I got 8 shows. We're going to count down from what I would consider the best to what I would consider the worst. Does that make sense?
Yes, Bob, that makes sense. That's usually how countdowns work.
I don't know. I feel like when you're talking about worst, though, it gets...
So number 1 is the worst.
Yes, number 1 is the worst. For number 8, Matt, do you know who Taylor Sheridan or Tay Sheridan is?
The name rings a bell, Bob, but enlighten me.
He was a really crappy actor on Sons of Anarchy. And then he started writing movies and was semi-successful at that. He did that Benicio del Toro movie, Sicario, and the sequel. Did a couple other pretty good movies. And then he got into TV, most famous for Yellowstone, which is the show that I think is just ending, but Real America.
Yeah, Real America does love Yellowstone, Bob, and that's one I can't watch. I can't seem to watch it. Can't get my wife to watch it with me either. We don't care for it. We watched the first episode of season 1 maybe 3 times, bounced off it.
I think the last season, season 5, is wrapping or just wrapped or something like that. I also think Kevin Costner left the show after season 4, and now Taylor Sheridan has made himself the lead of the show, if I understand that correctly. It's very, very strange.
That's how you know a show's good, guys. When the when the lead writer writes himself into the show.
And apparently it's still wildly popular. Apparently Real America doesn't mind that Taylor Sheridan's done this.
They're good with it.
Yeah. So I've never watched Yellowstone, Matt, partially because it's confusing. I don't know where to stream it, man. It's really confusing. Everything else Taylor Sheridan does TV-wise, including the prequels to Yellowstone, are all on Paramount Plus, but Yellowstone itself is not, for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's one of the confusing things where Paramount Plus, per the spinoffs, the prequels and sequels and everything that goes with it, there's so many of them because this was a cash cow. I mean, that's really all it was.
It's the new Walking Dead.
Yeah. But we're not talking about Yellowstone, Bob.
We're not talking about Yellowstone. One other funny thing to say about Yellowstone, I think it does air on the Paramount Network, but it does not stream on Paramount Plus. It's very confusing. So my top 2 shows on my worst shows of 2024 list are Tay Sheridan shows. The first one, which is to say the best bad show I watched this year, is Landman Season 1. Have you seen the ads for this, Matt?
I have not seen the ads for it, but it sounds awful.
It's Billy Bob Thornton as an oil dude. He's running the drill sites and what have you.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's like a really interesting look at the oil industry. On the other hand, it's a super right-wing show. Every episode has Billy Bob Thornton or someone giving a lecture to some dumb young liberal about how important oil is, and don't you know that oil is never going away.
So was this paid for by the oil company?
That part is all kind of fun and interesting, though, even though obviously we're cooking the planet. But at this point, we already cooked the planet, so whatever. But it is trying to be a soap opera, which is, I think, what Yellowstone is, too. But I would just say it's a very low-energy soap opera. Some of the soap opera developments in it are very stupid. The pilot was actually very good, and the rest of the season just hasn't delivered. I've seen 7 episodes besides the pilot. There's 2 more episodes to air in 2025 to wrap up season 1. We're not officially confirmed that this will get a season 2, but it seems pretty likely it will. And just to air a couple of other big problems with it, this show stars John Hamm and Demi Moore, but it does literally nothing with them. Demi Moore has had not even 5 lines, 8 episodes of television, and John Hamm is in for 1 season an episode, but he's done literally nothing the whole show. It's mystifying why they even bothered.
They're probably using the cameo method, Bob, where they pay him for like an hour or 4.
Yeah. Well, and this is the big thing about Taylor Sheridan shows is he gets a failed movie star, Kevin Costner, Billy Bob Thornton, or in a minute we'll get to Sylvester Stallone to anchor, or Jeremy Renner
to
anchor a show. And then he also gets other big names, but he hardly uses the other big names at all.
So, Bob,
And
where could I watch Landman?
Paramount Plus, baby.
Paramount Plus. All right.
I'll probably watch season 2 too. It's bad, but it's interesting. I enjoy texting about it with my boy JR. So
Yeah, this is Bob's number 8, so we know it's not the absolute worst. So,
so at number 7, we got Tulsa King season 2, also by Taylor Sheridan. This one's starring Sylvester Stallone. It's basically Sylvester Stallone is this New York mafioso who moves to Tulsa and he gets into like semi-legal weed and drop shipping. It's really funny that the guy who I think he was the main writer on the show, but Taylor Sheridan disliked him and demoted him. But the guy who was running this show in the first season was the number 2 man on The Sopranos, and he was the number 1 writer on Boardwalk
oh my
Empire.
God.
And those are 2 of the absolute best mafia shows ever made. They're 2 of the best television shows ever made. And then 10 years later, he's doing this. That's really funny to me.
Okay, maybe that's why you need to make sure you have an editor.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if it's just Terrence Winter's gotten old and he doesn't have that game in him
Oh,
anymore, or
that
I
could
don't know
be
if
it.
this is what comes of him having to work under Taylor Sheridan. I couldn't say.
That's true too.
Well, Matt, speaking of mob shows, number 6 is something you're intimately familiar with because we covered every episode.
Yes, we did, Bob.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it that it's going to give us a Clayface movie. Got him.
You don't want to see Clayface exist in the Penguin?
No.
What?
I mean, I'm not hostile to the idea of Clayface as a villain in a Batman movie, but just the idea of a Clayface solo movie fills me with rage.
That's rough, but we've gone into Penguin in depth, so check out our coverage of that if you haven't already. But yeah, definitely, Bob, you're number 6, the Penguin. I agree with that one.
And then getting worse, Matt, number 5, the final season of Star Trek Discovery. It's actually not that bad, but I got freed by how bad the season 4 finale of Disco was to admit that I hated the show. And so I still hate the show. Do you know Callum Keith Rennie? He's in Battlestar Galactica and a bunch of other television.
Vaguely, I've heard the name before.
They bring him on to, I mean, Saru's still on the show, but he basically takes Saru's job.
Oh,
They bring him on to take Saru's job, and basically every episode they berate his character for being toxically masculine. It's really funny. Remember David Cronenberg showing up in Disco season 3 and 4?
yeah.
David Cronenberg, one of the greatest directors of all time, one of my favorite directors. Here they reveal what his deal is, and his deal is, I don't know if you know this, but there's a time traveling character, spoilers, in Star Trek Enterprise, and basically David Cronenberg is that character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Sounds weird.
I'm so glad Discovery's over. We've got the Section 31 movie coming in a couple weeks that we'll probably cover. I hope that's good, but I assume that's a lot of the same writers and same world building as Disco. I just can't expect that it'll be good, even though I hope that.
Little bit of news from that movie, Bob. One of the actors in it has mentioned that he's worried about the response most fans are going to give because it's not your typical Star Trek. That's coming from someone in it, so I'm thinking that's scary.
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, it's a real bad sign.
Well, to keep descending into the pits of hell, Matt, number 4 in season 2. I just want to begin, listeners, by saying I hate myself for watching both seasons of House of the Dragon this year. It's also really funny that I think they canceled the last episode or last 2 episodes of House of the Dragon season 2 just because it went over budget. And so the season is just a total fizzle at the end, no cliffhanger, just total fizzle. Oh, God, it was so bad. Worse than season 1 in a lot of ways. If season 3 is the final season of the show, I'll watch it, Matt. But if there's 2 more seasons of House of the Dragon, I don't think I got that dog in me, man.
Yeah, I watched the first season and just tapped out after trying to watch the first episode of this season, Bob. So kudos to you for enduring that.
You're a better, wiser man than me, Matt. Keep the countdown going. At spot 3, we've got Fallout season.
Oh, strong disagree, Bob. There is nothing wrong with Fallout.
There's nothing right with it. We did an episode on it, listeners, if you're curious. I really hated it. So much boring slow-mo. Some good characters. Nothing interesting. I don't care about these knights in the apocalypse. Apparently, it does capture the feel of playing the game, according to Matt.
Yes, it does.
That's why I hate it.
Yes, but Fallout should not be on this list, but it's Bob's list, so it's there.
Matt, I really don't want to watch a season 2 of it, but I don't know. Maybe I will, so we can do an episode on that.
All right, Bob. I'm telling you, you're gonna want your Fallout is the only thing on this list I disagree with. Everything else is spot on, including your number two here.
Wow, you're agreeing. That's unprecedented.
Yeah,
That's unprecedented. So number two, Star Wars Acolyte. Matt, I actually really had high hopes for this. This is the first Star Wars TV series that is not a direct prequel to a film or is not spitting out of 11 seasons of mediocre cartoons. The other five Star Wars TV shows are either prequels directly to films or they spin out of bad cartoons. And yet, I think this is worse than all of them. It was just really bad, man. There were pointless flashbacks. The mystery was meh. There was too much slow mo. I don't know if you know this, Matt, but the Jedi have terrible haircuts. It was a mess.
yeah. I watched the first 3 episodes of this show and tapped out.
I think there were only six.
So wow, so I watched half the season. That's rough.
Maybe
Well,
there were more, and I'm misremembering, but I want to say it was only six. I definitely watched all of it, however many it was, though.
so you thought that having a show not directly attached to anything would be great, but it just didn't work out, Bob. They gave you what you wanted, and it wasn't what
They did well. They did give me what I wanted, but they just didn't do a good job.
you spit it out, Bob. That's what you did.
I did.
You
I did.
spit it back in their
I am
faces.
fandom. I think I'm done with Star Wars TV, Matt. I saw the trailer to Skeleton Crew, the kids show that's currently airing with Jude Law, and I was just no, that's not for old Bob.
Yeah, what is that? I don't know. I'm pretty much done with it too. I don't know what else.
I may try to watch Andor again when season 2 comes back because some friends really like Andor. But man, I really did not like season 1 of Andor. But I only got 4 or 5 episodes on.
Yeah. So is there anything else? So that's the only thing coming from Star Wars is Skeleton Crew.
That's coming out right now. We got a second season of Andor coming. And then I think right now the plan is to do a movie that links together Mando, Boba Fett, Ashoka, and the Skeleton Crew. And then maybe the plan is to do another movie about Mando and Grogu after that. I think that's the last thing I saw.
Bob, is there a movie or a series coming out that's going to explain how Chewbacca got his bowcaster?
That's a good question. I'm sure they're hard at work on that at Disney.
Because that's really on the top of the list right now.
Well, Matt, are you ready to go to the worst show of the year, in my opinion?
What's the worst show of the year, Bob?
Like The Acolyte, another thing I had high hopes for and then just absolutely hated, it's Dune Prophecy. I got to lead with the praise, which is to say the production values of this show are really good, and they really do ape the Villeneuve Dune movie production values. And they do have some great actors, but I would just say the writing of the show is tepid and stagnant. Honestly, it just seems an attempt to do a science fiction version of House of the Dragon, but it makes House of the Dragon look like riveting TV in comparison.
Yeah. Once again, and Bob, this is the first time I think you've done a list where I have recognized like almost 90% of the shows, which is great.
Well, I think usually you recognize the things I hate and you don't recognize the things I love.
That maybe that is true. But as far as this goes, Dune Prophecy, man, I watched the first episode of this and you have it spot on. It is House of the Dragon, but set on
Space.
set on space desert world.
Well, it's actually not,
Or
mostly not set on the planet Dune, the planet Arrakis, but it does mention the planet Dune, the planet Arrakis constantly.
yeah, because you got to keep that name in there. It's the name of the show.
And it's hilarious that it's a prequel set 10,000 years before Dune the movies, Dune the novel. And yet it's the same three families arguing about the same three things. And they've been arguing about it for 10,000 years.
10,000 years. You think they go to war or something?
Well, Matt, I do have to say, I think between Dune, Prodigy, Picard, Star Wars Acolyte, and a little show I like to call Moon, that's actually called Moonhaven, would you agree that the 2020s might be the worst decade ever for science fiction on television?
It's looking pretty bad, Bob. Most of what you've made me watch is not that great.
I only made you watch Picard out of the. We watched a little Prodigy, and then you tapped out.
I tapped out a couple of others, but
I thought about making you watch Dune, Acolyte, and Moon, but I never actually made you watch any of it.
yeah, it's pretty bleak, Bob. But it's because they've run out of stories.
Yeah, I think they're just doing real pointless IP farming.
Sad.
Well, Matt, if you were going to try to watch any of these, I would say that Landman season 1 and Tulsa King season 2 are pretty funny. I mean, they're bad, but they're pretty funny. You could do worse things, but for you, Matt, and for the listeners, I would say, dear God, don't do what I've done. Don't watch the rest of this crap.
Give yourself a Tay Sheridan night, guys.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, this has been a very special episode of Uncanny Tracks. It's been a special episode in the sense that Matt largely agreed with what I said, despite his inexplicable love for Fallout. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.